Hey guys, my name is JessiMew, and welcome back to Cattails and Niche. In the last episode, we used the sandbox to recreate the forest colony to the best of our ability. And now today we're going to dive back into the world with them again, not only to see if our little kitties can actually survive in the land of Niche, but also to give them a few updates too. Aside from the colony itself, I decided to set them up inside the peaceful meadow after all. I felt this would be a little bit more fitting for the forest colony. There aren't quite as many biomes competing for attention here, so it's mostly just grasslands. And I guess we have one lonely tree way over by the stream. I suppose that would probably be the best place for them to set up camp too. They could use that as some sort of landmark. That will be the beacon that our little kitties follow. But the colony has seen a few improvements, particularly Lyrus. For starters, he's actually blue today, so that is definitely a plus. He's looking much more like himself. But you guys also had the great idea to use the blind eyes for his eye color. The blind gene gives him that silvery look, so he looks a little bit more like he's supposed to in the game. I feel like it kind of fits his character too. He's usually just found lazing around ponds and streams. He doesn't move very far away from the camp. And while he does spend most of his times on the outskirts, almost as if he's some sort of outcast, we never see Lyrus stray from the comforts of home. Not to mention, the blind romantic poet seems like a pretty interesting character to follow, so I'm sure that Lyrus is going to make quite the impression in Niche too. But to start things off, Mare, it looks like you're going to have to lead your cats across the water. Somehow the game has spawned us on this tiny little island, and I also noticed that whale island over here. All of the ports are completely separate from the mainland too. How cool does that look? It's almost as if they're actually jumping on the back of a whale from here. This entire island is a pretty interesting spawn, so I know you guys are going to find a good place to settle down. So I guess Mare should probably be the first, right? Though technically he is one of the slowest, and he's also pretty hard at seeing. But that's why he's enlisted the help of Sarge and Scout. So you know what, Scout? Why don't you live up to your namesake and actually scout ahead for us? We'll have you jump to the other side of the water, then maybe onto the shores. You could use those big ears to listen around for some bunnies, and to sniff out some of those berries too. Excellent, so it looks like you already have a pretty good source of food. But who would be the best cat to pick the berries first? I mean, to be honest, Missy does love her berries. I decided to give her the velvet paws instead of the nimble fingers though, because I figured she would probably be a little bit more delicate. Like she would really take her time when she's picking her precious berries. So it might take her a little bit longer to finish the job, but she's not leaving until it's done. So it probably would make sense if she's the very first one to snatch those off of the branches. Of course, we're going to have to make sure that Sarge is very close by too. Let's have him lunge across the water, and then he could set up on the opposite end of Missy. He's probably a little bit worried about her, though he's keeping his feelings deep under wraps. He knows that Missy is not a fighter, so he'll stay close by to make sure that nothing harmful comes her way. In fact, let's have him creep into the tall grasses, right in between these two berry bushes. You've got to inspect it after all. Make sure that nothing dangerous is going to creep out of the darkness while she's picking her berries here. And now finally, Mare, I think it's about time that you catch up with your guards. We'll have you settle right down next to Missy, who I think we're probably going to assume is your daughter in this case. I always like that theory because she does act like a spoiled little princess. And you've got to admit that those two look pretty similar too. I am having way too much fun with this. The fact that we can actually take all of these characters and control them to our heart's content. We could even see what potential kittens might look like between our favorite pairings. So I'm glad that you guys are liking this idea too, and I'm really looking forward to continuing it for the other colonies in the future. But somebody is going to have to help guide Lyrus over to the shore as well, and I'm sure that's probably going to be you, Doc. As the healer, of course, you probably spend quite a bit of time with Lyrus to make sure he doesn't get himself too injured, especially with the hemophilia that he's carrying. So we'll have him zip across the water as best as he can. Actually, Scout, you might have to move over so he can get to the shores at all. Yeah, let's have you set up right on top of this bunny burrow. He's probably so eager to go chasing after the bunnies in the grasses. So if he sets up here, he figures he'll be able to hear them as soon as we skip the day. I wonder if we're going to find any healing fruits on this island. It's one of the easy mode islands, and I'm not sure if healing fruits spawn on that level. But if anybody can sniff it out, I'm sure it would be Doc. I think it would probably be best for him to help shovel out the grass right now, clear out all of these tall grass tops, and I suppose Lyris could probably do the same. That way it'll be easier for everybody to follow after the scouts, because they're still trying to make their way toward that one distant tree. And as for you, Ember, I know that you have your eyes out for those trinkets and treasures. Anything that you could sell in your shop? And while I do think that that shell would be very, very tempting for you, I also think you should probably stay with the colony. So let's have her come up here instead, because she might actually be able to get her nimble fingers in one of those coconuts. It looks like there aren't any around here right now, but if you go ahead and pick up this grass too, we'll cross our fingers that one might fall right on top of those cliffs. So our very first night, the forest colony's first night in Niche. Let's cross our fingers that nothing dangerous is going to spawn right off the bat. Hopefully only bunnies. And I think I did hear something. That might have been a mole though. Ooh, Scout, look at that, a nice juicy mole. If you jump over to this side of Ember, at least it definitely won't hear you, and we know you've trained hard to be the sneakiest cat around, so that is definitely going to be your priority. Go ahead and hit this mole from behind for us, but then you're going to want to scoot to the side. Probably at Ember's request. She has noticed that these coconuts can fall with some pretty high velocity after all, so while she cracks one open, she'll go ahead and scoop the meat for you too. We'll just cross our fingers that that's not going to go into her stock instead. Geez, I wonder if that's how she gets all of that food for her store. Do you think she has a little side deal with Scout? I mean, if he's the best of the best, then he probably has plenty of food to go around. I wonder if maybe she's paying him in Mews for his troubles. I guess the closest thing to Mews in this game would probably just be the berries. Or we could say something like nesting material too, but there aren't too many creatures who would be able to use it. Oh. Though if we ran into the peaceful bear, it would almost be like we're paying him in Mews too. Mews to leave us alone, or Mews to guard our territory. Interesting. We might have to think about that in the future if one does come lumbering out of the darkness. Well, Sarge, you should probably be the one to tear the pathway for your leader, huh? Well, if you pick up that grass, the one right in front of you, and then I suppose Missy could probably settle down right in between the berries. This is probably like paradise to her. She probably figures that this right here would be the perfect place to call home. But her dad isn't really hearing it. Oh, and there's even a permanent nest over here too. If only it wasn't so far away from camp, this might actually be a good spot for somebody to settle down. But I think we're gonna have to move on, Mare. You could at least pick up the grass, I suppose, just in case we need it in the future, but this must be a home for some completely different cat. I guess we could even consider the wandering creatures to be like rogue cats, or the cats from different colonies that the forest needs to fend off. Generally, the forest colony seems like the friendliest bunch to me, so I'm sure they would still welcome newcomers into their fold too. Kind of like when Penny washed up on their doorstep. Mare was pretty quick to accept her into their home. But they're going to need to find their home first. So now that Doc is a little bit further out, let's have him sniff around too. Gosh, berry bushes leading all the way up to that tree. Seems like it was meant to be, and I'm sure that Missy would probably agree too. Ooh, did you hear that, Scout? That was definitely the sound of a little bunny spawning. Oh no, he is going to run himself ragged if he goes chasing after this bunny instead. Yeah, he's going to be a little bit behind now, but the bunnies always come first, especially in Scout's eyes. Bunnies were his very favorite snack after all. So I'm sure that Sarge could probably convince Missy to keep heading forward, as long as they know that there are plenty of berries to spare. We'll have Elyrus clear out the grasses behind them, sticking to the outskirts as is typical of his character. And that'll give everybody else a chance to sniff around their new home. Missy first, of course, right beside the berry bushes. I wonder if this is where she would decide to settle down. Now this berry bush is close enough to the tree that I would imagine it's probably within the range of their camp. It's probably the right location for her actual den site too. Her den was pretty close to the southern end of the territory. Kind of funny how that's where all of the berry bushes are growing then. Yeah, it doesn't look like there are too many more to the north. Instead, that's reserved for the stream, which I know that Mare is going to love. In Cattails, his den is actually right next to this strange little moat, and he also loves to receive fish as gifts. So if we have him sneak his way a little bit further up, sniff around to make sure nothing is lurking in the darkness. Nobody else has claimed this for their home base. Oh, I wonder if this is where he could set up his home. Surrounded by water, just like the leader's den is supposed to be. Well, one more coconut for you, Ember, and I think that's going to have to be it. You're going to have to find some other little trinket to sell in your shop. And to be honest, I guess she could probably collect those acorns too. Those would also be very fine additions to her shelves. So far so good though. Our colony clearly has plenty of food to spare, so I think they'll be able to survive a few more days. As long as nothing truly nefarious comes stumbling out from the darkness. And I think I heard crabbits that time? Our very first crabbits clawing their way from the ocean, Scout? Well, it's nothing that he can hear, and in fact he's probably too distracted by this bunny meat to even care. So as he makes his way back to the rest of the colony, I wonder if maybe Ember would point out that she hears plenty of bunnies up here too. Their new home is crawling with snacks. I just wonder if we're going to find any permanent nests out here. Sometimes we do find them right underneath the trees. Oh, looks like there's only a berry bush. Plenty of those acorns, of course, so plenty of food. But no good place for you guys to rest your heads, I'm afraid. You're going to have to create your own nurseries out here. Well, if Lyrus is safe within the sights of the rest of the colony, I suppose Doc would be okay to scoot his way up here too. Scaring away the bunnies in the process. Oh, Scout would not be impressed, but I suppose you do want them to stay away from your precious berries. We might as well pretend that these are actually healing herbs of some sort. I guess this could be where Doc sets up his camp, at least until he finds an actual healing fruit to use. Those are always a little bit more potent than the purring magic. We might have Mare gently guide Elyrus over to the water's edge, so the poet can enjoy peacefully writing his verses. And perhaps that leaves us to finally have our very first group of kittens. Sarge and Missy. I've always wondered if these two would start a family, because they sure did seem interested in each other in our playthrough. Missy was always trying her best to catch the guard's attention, and he was always offering up little gifts of gemstones. So let's see if we can set up a nest, and maybe change their mutation menus just a little bit. With the way that we set up Missy's genetics, there's no way that we would ever see his stripes on their babies. So just so that's actually an option, I want to drop the stripes into one of her slots. That way there's a 50% chance that they'll either have no markings like her, or they'll look a little bit more like their father instead. So go ahead and breed with Sarge, and then we'll have you place down a nest. I think it's interesting to note too, you guys saw that I made their immunity genes random, but the game actually gave Sarge and Missy one similar gene, so that means there is the potential that some of their babies could end up sick. And I wonder if maybe that would cause a little bit of stress between them. In Finch's flight, they both seemed awfully cold, so maybe this was the reason. But we might get lucky too, and we know that we have a very capable healer in the background. So if this baby ends up sick, I'm sure that Doc will be able to swoop in and save the day. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, you look like you have no fur at all, little one. That color. Are you actually a sphinx in disguise? That is too funny, especially coming from a line known to have such fluffy cats. I mean, Missy and then Mare over here with this big fluffy coat. That is actually hilarious. but she's not going to put up with anybody making fun of her. She has one nice big healthy claw to show them who's boss. So I guess she might actually take after her father a little bit more. At least in temperament. That short temper is probably just from him. But since all of these cats are pretty much named after their roles in the colony, I mean Mare the leader, Sarge the guard, Scout the scout, we have to make sure that she has a pretty similar name too. So we'll just go ahead and name her Princess. Descended from royalty and probably just as confident as her mother. That color though, like surely that's not going to be the only color that we see today. It must be because Sarge passed the chestnut brown fur color, and of course Missy is only going to pass white. So they could actually have some gray kittens too. That would be interesting to see. Yeah, we'll try to have another baby between them, but of course we're going to have to wait until we can use this nest again. Unless anybody else can find a better place to set up camp. There was that nest way down here, though I'm sure that Mare wouldn't approve. It's so far away from the main heart of camp. And if Sarge can't keep a close eye on the babies in the nursery either, then there's no way he would let her leave. So we'll just carry on picking our berries, picking up the grass tufts all around us, and trying our best to gather up that extra nesting material. Sarge, why don't you come on over to this side? You can pick up the grass on the other end, and maybe even guide Mare over to meet his granddaughter. I'm also kind of wondering if it might be a good idea to start a family between Doc and Ember too. As some of the older cats in the colony, I feel like they would have quite a bit in common, and we might also be able to breed a line of super collectors. I'm not sure if they would be more interested in picking up stock for the shop, or if they would take after their father with his healer's role. But I think there's a good opportunity for a very helpful family there, especially if Sarge is going to favor strength. And look at this Scout. One greedy little bunny has tried to steal away into the territory. Good thing you were keeping watch over that berry bush. Missy would have been so offended if you let him steal every last one of your berries. And it looks like they're already taking care of the berry bushes on the other side of camp. So let's go ahead and skip the day again, watching as our very first kitten of the colony grows in her nest. Now she's ready to play. Now she's ready for trouble even. A baby between Missy and Sarge, you know that she would be out of the nest the moment she could. Maybe she could even travel around with Sarge in the future, though for now, it would probably be for the best if Mare babysat her. We'll bring him over here to clear out the extra grasses. We'll have Sarge do the same again, as Lyris enjoys a little bit of peace and quiet right by the stream. Now if he had one of those claws, he could dip them in to try to grab some fish for his leader. But that's actually going to have to be up to you, Scout. If you don't have any more bunnies over here, maybe you should make your way over to the stream instead. We'll have you settle down right beside Lyris, and you two can have a quick chat together. I'm sure Scout isn't really the type for poetry, so I'm not sure how long that chat is going to last. You know, I could totally see Lyris being the type of creature to fall for some wandering cat. Some rugged sort of rogue who washes up on their shores, and maybe he's even the only one who trusts them. But that all depends if the game decides to spawn one in for us. So for now, we'll just have you wait pleasantly right at the water's edge, searching those tides for the fish, of course, so you can let Scout know that he has them to catch. Now Missy, I think you're going to have to scoot over here to breed again with Sarge, so we can see what your next baby is going to look like. Hopefully one with a little bit more fluff on their body this time. That must have been quite the shock for you, Mare. Now Doc has done a pretty good job setting up this area to heal his wounded colony. But I think that Ember's looking for a little bit more. She's had her fill of acorns, and now she wants to find something different to bring to her store. So while the moles might be a little bit too tricky for her to catch, let's have her keep sniffing as she goes. And we'll see if she can stumble her way into anything interesting out here in the darkness. Just not too far away, because we don't want her getting ambushed, of course. So what do you say, Missy? Are you destined to give us hairless cats time after time again? Ooh, no. This one looks like a rugged little wolf indeed, but unfortunately he is sick. Oh, isn't that just the way? A warrior like his father, but cursed with a terrible illness. Well, naturally, to go alongside his sister's name, I feel like the only name that would fit him is Prince. So now we have Prince and Princess, the two little royal babies of the colony. But I'm sure that Sarge would go chasing after Doc straight away. We'll have him make his way through the tall grasses to settle down by the baby's side, and let out a gentle purr for him. He could even pick up a couple of these extra berries to feed him too. The budding young prince is really going to need his strength just to survive. I would have assumed that his big sister would be too self-absorbed to care. The limelight is far away from her now. How would she feel having none of the attention where all of it was on her before? But I wonder if maybe she would take this as her chance to seek out some berries too. If she knows that these healing herbs will help him, maybe she could sneak off in some different direction. Search the wilds for a little remedy of her own. Unfortunately, it seems pretty bare off in this direction, aside from the bunnies. And hopefully that's not going to call any danger her way, especially with Sarge so distracted right now, too much to even come to her aid. He might gently nudge his worried mate away from the nest. That way they can give the healer a little bit more room to work. And Mare, maybe it's time that you return to your den. Right up to the water's side, where Scout is still looking around for some fish to scoop up. It looks like the bunnies may have actually gotten to a stash of berries too. Maybe he was coming back here to search for some more healing remedies. But those bunnies are relentless. Scout, you better go chasing after him. Just don't go too far, okay? We still don't know what else is lurking out in the darkness, though that explains our bunny situation on this side of the map. It looks like there was actually a burrow right next to your den the entire time, Mare. And we have a little snack over here too. A nice big mole to scoop up for the time being. Oh, Lyris. Oh, you found yourself stranded in the darkness? No wonder he so often seems like an outcast. He must have lost himself in his thoughts, surrounded by the babble of the stream. He's completely forgotten to stay aware of his surroundings. So I guess all we can really do is leave him right there. Nobody is really in the area to pull him out of his trance. Ember is far too distracted at this point anyways. Let's have her keep sniffing deep into the grass as she goes, just in case she comes across anything interesting. Unfortunately, so far it doesn't look like that's the case. It is definitely pretty bare out here, so I guess all you can hope for is a little bit of extra mole meat to fill the rest of your shelves. So let's go ahead and skip the day one more time. Doc can work his magic, healing the little baby in the nest, though not enough to banish his sickness, I'm afraid. And Missy, I'm sure, is just beside herself. She never imagined that her own family would be cursed like this. It even makes me wonder if maybe in Cattails they had lost a litter of their own. That would also explain the sudden change. Oh, hello, little one. Oh my gosh, there's a little platypus stuck in the river. Lyris! Oh my goodness, do you think maybe she heard those beautiful poems of his? Oh, she must be a little romantic too. It's going to be a little bit of a stretch of the imagination to see her as anything other than a platypus though. It is definitely hard to see her as a cat for sure. She is so pretty though in albino platypus beak. Oh, she is gorgeous, Lyris. If only you could pull her out of the water. Oh, I wonder if maybe Princess? As she scuttles through the grasses, maybe she would take notice of the little poet too. If she heard him practicing his verses, she might come up behind him. Oh no, where did the beautiful ghost go? Oh, she's on the other end of the stream now. Oh, Lyris, your one true love is wading across the stream and you don't even know it, do you? What a tragedy. Well, I'm sure there's a way for us to bring you over there somehow, but you're definitely going to need help. Oh, it almost feels like a Romeo and Juliet moment or something. Him desperately singing his poems across the stream, trying to pierce the darkness that she's stuck in. Honestly, she's probably just afraid that this colony is going to attack her. who knows if she's from one of the enemy colonies after all? She might be from the mountain, she might be from the mystic colony. Now that I could definitely see. Maybe if that platypus beak of hers is like some sort of mask, just like what Crampy wears in the swamps. That would explain her wariness right now. She knows better than to get too close. But all the same, she just can't help it. Lyris has stolen her heart. I think that's where we're going to end it for today though. So like before, let me know if you guys want to see more of this. I'm not sure how long we're going to continue following the various colonies, but I do definitely want to make the other ones too. So if you guys have any ideas for the mountain colony cats or the mystic colony cats, then let me know in the comments. But for now, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye guys!